Good afternoon, everybody. It is again such a pleasure to host another event with one of our proud alumni. Success is born out of faith, undying passion, and a relentless drive. This is what I had shared in my poster link when I shared it with all of you, and that had a specific reason behind. It's because this is what our speaker for the day has been. Roshni Maria Rodrigues, our alumna of batch 2015 from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Again, my first batch of passing out of, the engineering standards, and this is the first batch I handled my placements for, and an unforgettable batch for me as well. A quick introduction of what Roshni has been doing. So, I think graduating out of college, she then got into a career with IT, post which she decided to move on to fill in her passion. So, I have seen her perform on stage in the college. I remember, Joel and many more other people with whom you've done the theater part, the skits competition and things like that, and that's been memorable ones that we can look at. So Roshni currently is, working for government schools. She's taught for grade 7 as a teacher, and then, she also worked for Teach for India as a fellow from 2017 to 2019 for about 2 years. Taught about 60 students in the government school in Bangalore. She also was the Bangalore city head for Dramebaz, a theatre and education program. So, if somebody thinks academics is the only part in education, I think people are mistaken. You have a lot of other avenues that you can really look out when you talk about educating students in different avenues then, right? And in that education program, she was responsible for about 500 students across 30 government schools. And of course, these schools are low income private schools where people afford to give their services then. She was also co-team member of Camp Diaries, a project that sought to bring summer camp experience to government schools. I mean, these summer camp experiences, I think we've heard only in big international schools, or which is only given to the privileged lot of it. But I think Roshni has worked towards the society to experience them, to make them feel what is it that the high class people also, but these are the conditions that she bought in for those guys as well. To end with, she's a theater enthusiastic. She loves to host events. She's a very good public speaking student, I know. Now, not a student, you are an alumna, you are a corporate world professional now. To engage in education conversations, and I think during lockdown, many of us acquired a lot of skills. So doing this webinar itself is a skill that many of them must have learned. Otherwise, it was hardly a time that people would really get online and share experiences. So learning to play guitar is something that Ashmi is, working on, and I think soon we will also get to hear some of those skills then. A quick round of introduction for you, Roshni. I am again proud to connect with you back, along with the junior students. And I hope they take away, the relevance of this session as to how your passion is important when you make decisions across, what you want to work on. So welcome to this webinar, and
Thank you.
over to you to take it forward from here.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that warm welcome and colorful introduction. It's always lovely to come back to the college that taught me so much. Hi, guys. I can't see your faces, but I hope you can see me. I will quickly share my screen with you, and then I think we're good to go. Yeah, is that visible? Sangeeta, ma'am?
Yes,
Can you
yes,
hear me?
yes, it is.
Oh, great. All right. So, guys, I hope you've been doing well in these uncertain times. I hope you've been staying indoors and staying safe. So, quickly, let me get started with what I have to share with you today. I will speak for a couple of minutes, after which the forum will be open to questions, and please feel free to ask any question that you're probably grappling with and you would like to clarify with me. So yeah, let's get started. I, like man mentioned, worked as a software developer right after I graduated, and today I work as a government school teacher, so I will be sharing my journey in carving out my career trajectory with you today. As we walk through today's talk, I will be briefly referring to these segments. Firstly, building network. Why is it very important to build network, to build connections, and how it helped me to understand the different options that were available, right after college. How did building connections with people help me understand that what were the different things that I could do. The second thing that we will be talking about is seeking out and exploring. Of the many options that you have, how do you make sure that your skills and interests map on to your dream JD? And this is something that I really would like to share with you because I think many of us, including me, right, back in college, we follow the herd mentality, right? So what is it that the rest are doing? I will do the same. It doesn't really matter if I have the skills for it or if I'm working on the skills required to match up to my dream JD, right? Many of us even fall into the pitfall of only looking at the salary angle. There's nothing else that we when we peruse through the JD, when we look at the JD, there's nothing else that we really look at. All we look at is, okay, how much is the company offering me, right, financially. So these are things that I would really, and again, I'm not saying don't look at the salary, the kind of money you will be making, because that is equally important. But I would also encourage you to start applying to places that you're really passionate about, right? Even when the companies that come into your college, um, you really need to understand if that is where your interests lie when they come in and share the job description with you. Is that where your interests lie, or are you just applying because the rest of the crowd is applying? And finally, I will be talking about being aware of your strengths and areas of development. One quick thing I know in your training program, because I had the same too back when I was in college, you have been told about this multiple times. You should be aware of your strengths, you should be aware of your areas of development. But I will just ask you to take it a step further. Don't do it just for the sake of your interview. Don't do it because you're asked to do it. But be intentional about what your strengths are and what your areas of development are. I will tell you why when we get to that segment. Okay, so let's get started. All right. So before I delve into the slide, I will very briefly take you through my journey where I started out. I started working with Nippon Electrical Corporation as a software developer in the year 2015, right after I graduated. Everything was amazing, right? I was in Bangalore, a new city, all by myself. The pay was good. The manager was amazing. The people I worked with were good, a great work environment. More importantly, there was a lot of learning in the process, right? Because I worked on an app which was in its very nascent stages. So right from customer interaction, right, interacting with the customer, getting requirements, to the very documentation of the process, development, testing, and everything, and right up to the documentation, I did it all, and I had to solely take care of this project. So it was a lot of learning as a fresher. But that being said, there was something deep down which was very unsettling. Um, I wasn't entirely satisfied with what I was doing. Reason being, like ma'am said, I always loved to stay connected with the art side of me, right? I was always up and about when it came to participating in fests. I was always there when it was fests in our college, when it was fests in another college, or when it came to organizing events. When it came to hosting events, I was always ready to get the cultural side of me out. But over here, I did not see so much of that happening. Nonetheless, I kept at it, and that's when I also realized that I need to start reaching out to people. Need to start connecting with people. I won't really talk much about how to connect with people because I think my friend Madhura very beautifully explained it to you the other day, that is earlier this week on Monday. So I won't really talk much about it. But I started networking with people. I wrote to people on LinkedIn. I started looking up pages of different organizations on Facebook, the kind of work they do. Um, so here's something that I want to tell you. Uh, you should be open to being ghosted. It's very natural when you start writing to people and all. It's not everyone who responds, who is ready to answer your queries. Sometimes people take months, sometimes people take years to even get back. Sometimes people just don't think they need to get back to you. But don't let that get to you emotionally. Keep reaching out, right? Because it is for your own professional growth. So reach out to as many people as you can. Be polite and be professional. So as I reached out, as I even spoke to people, because I joined a Toastmasters club in Bangalore when I moved there, and as I started networking with people, just during breaks, I just walk up to people, start small talk, and just understand what is it that they were doing. I realized that people are doing a variety of things, right? There were those who had full-time jobs, but also started something on the side, something that they were passionate about. There were those who had full-time jobs, but worked with NGOs over the weekends, to keep their passion going. So that sort of and mid talk, mid conversation, many a time I heard people talk about the Teach for India organization, but I never really gave it much thought until one day when my one of my colleagues walks up to me and he says, "Hey, listen, have you heard about the Teach for India organization?" I said, "Yes," and he said, "Why don't you look it up and why don't you apply?" Right. So this time I went back home. I sat, actually looked up their page, and for some reason I felt very connected. I filled in the application. I sent it. I sent it ahead. So and finally, I did get through the Teach for India. The Teach for India process takes quite a while, about 4 to 6 months. It took me about 6 months to hear back, and finally, when I got through, I put my papers in at NEC, and I was all set to start on my new journey as a teacher. So before I continue with the rest of my story, let me talk about why network is network, right? A, because it opens a diverse pool of options. As fresh graduates from college, you have a very blinkered view of the options you have, right? So when you start connecting with people, when you start understanding what are the many different things that they have done, that's when you understand, okay, this is also a possibility with my set of qualifications, right? Helps you better understand the organization and better understand the work environment. So many a times, I cannot really emphasize enough on these points because many a times what happens is the when you look up an organization's page, every company has only good things to say about it, right? So essentially, when you reach out to people, connect with employees who are currently working or serving their term at the organization, you will get better insights into what are the work ethics they follow. Okay, what kind of work culture is prevalent in the organization. And a lot of times, I know many of us also look at Glassdoor reviews, which is fine, but sometimes Glassdoor reviews can be very, very mean as well. So I would generally encourage you to reach out to people who are working at the organization, look them up on LinkedIn, reach out to multiple people to get more or less of an unbiased opinion about what the company does. Um, the next point, it's very important for those of you who are planning on making a complete transition, like what I did, completely transitioning out of an industry into a completely different industry, gives you a head start to the skills you need to build, right? So the multiple people that I connected with, I finally got through to this one person. I asked her if if I could call her up at a convenient time. And when I got on a call with her, I asked her, what were some of the things you wish you had known before you became a Teach for India fellow, before you stepped into your classroom? So she said, A, I really think you need a great deal of patience to work with these children. Now, I was a very, very short-tempered person, and so that was something I really needed to work on. Another thing is, she said, what happens many a time is when industry professionals, so people working in the corporate sector, make this jump or transition into teachers, it's very difficult for them to connect with children because with children, you need to simplify concepts, right? You need to break things down to the last morsel. So what happened with me was these were a couple of things that I started to work on. I just like close myself inside my room and try teaching different concepts. I try being consciously aware of my patient's levels, right, when in different situations. So it gives you a head start to the skills you need to build and future prospects, right? So no networking is bad networking. Okay, just because I'm in the ed sector does not necessarily mean that I will not connect with someone who works in the corporate sector, who works in the agricultural sector. Reason being, A, I might want to head back to the corporate sector in the future. You never know what the future has in store. B, I might need to reach out to them for many different reasons. In fact, the people I reached out to, through my connections, I went back to them when I was raising funds for a project that I worked on, like ma'am said, Dramibas. I will talk about that later. So I went back and I reached out to them and I asked them what is it that their company does for CSR, and if they're open to funding our project. So no network is bad network. So you're still young, all of you, still in college. Reach out to people, be polite, be professional, and try to broaden your horizon of network. Okay. Um, which brings me to Teach for India. I know I was going over and over about Teach for India, but I did not really explain what exactly it is. So, Teach for India is a not for profit organization that works towards eliminating educational inequity in India. Fellows, those of us who apply for the fellowship, for the 2-year fellowship program, we are referred to as teaching fellows or simply fellows. We work in government schools and low income private schools for a period of 2 years. Now, what are some of the things that we are introduced to? Trust me, there are a great deal of challenges, a great deal of problems that are prevalent, not just in our education system, but also in our society at large. You just awaken to it, right? Because the community that I worked with, the students that I worked with, we have something called as home visits because the parents don't come and meet us for parent teacher meetings. Like a lot of them work from 4 in the morning to right up to 10 to 12 in the night, so you cannot expect them to come for parent teacher meetings. Many of them work over weekends as well, so we had to walk into communities to to actually engage, to understand what surroundings our children come from. Trust me, the communities they come from are rife with domestic violence, alcoholism, alcohol abuse, child abuse, drug addiction, bad role models. So there are so many of these things that are prevalent in their homes. I, for myself, many a time when I had gone into these houses, at around 4 5 in the evening, the dads would come home drunk. Thankfully the mothers were there, I would check that in advance. The dads would come home drunk. And it was just heart wrenching to see this because what happened is I was there for only 5 minutes, but then it just awakened me to the reality that this is what my children experience on a daily basis. This is what they're conditioned to. This is what is normal for them, right? So it opens your eyes to a plethora of problems that are prevalent in our society. And finally, it also provides you with a vast variety of post fellowship opportunities. So right after my 2-year fellowship program, many of my co-teachers, they went back to studying to pursue their MBAs. One of my friends, she went back. She came from Brown University. She finished her 2-year fellowship program, and now she's back at Brown again to continue with her higher studies. There are those who go into policy making, those who go into consultancies, those who stay back in the for-profit education sectors, and those some like me who stay back in government schools, right? So again, after the 2-year fellowship program, I had a wide variety of opportunities in front of me. But how would I have decided which was the best fit for me, right? So that will take me to the next segment of my talk. Before that, I will just, this is a small collage that I put together of my time at Teach for India, very few pictures. So the one that you see at the upper right hand side corner, that is Yelama. She is being felicitated for being the best footballer amidst, I think there were around 30 odd schools, and she's not one of the best performers academically, but one of the best football players that I have met, one of the best female football players I've met. And the one right next to that is my students and I were outside the Bangalore International Airport. We were all set to fly to Bombay for the football finals. Um, so that would be their first time in an airplane. So you can see how each one of them is just bustling with energy. So this we had signed up with an NGO called Just for Kicks, today known as Enabling Leadership, where they use football as a tool to foster 21st century skills in our children. So we have signed up for that with that NGO, and as a part of it, we made it to the finals. Um, so now I will quickly pause here for a poll for the first poll question. Sir, can we start with that? Yes, it's right there on your screens. I find it easy to connect with people. Yes, or it is a skill that I'm trying to work on, or no, I don't know where to start from. All right, I think time is up. Okay, we have the team who said, great. Okay, perfect. So we have most of you saying it is a skill that I'm trying to work on, and many have said yes. I find it easy, amazing, and three have said no, no problem. So for those of you who find it very, very easy to network with people, I'd say great going. Please amplify that skill. Work on, actually leveraging that skill to your advantage. Those of you who are still working on it, there's always, it's always good to first be aware that it's a skill that I need to work on. You can, for those of you who are extremely introverted, just don't know how to come out of your shell, start with a small group of people. Start with, let's say, your immediate group of friends, and then with a larger group of audience in your classroom, start giving seminars in your classroom, and then maybe slowly just get into the organizing committee of your fest. Start interacting with students from other colleges, during their fest. This is how. And just one quick thing: when you are trying to make a conscious effort to bring about a change, there will be people who laugh at you. There will be people who ridicule you. There will be people who think, you've gone bonkers, but it's okay, right? You're making this change for yourself. So be conscious, and yeah, I think it's great to know that many of you have started working on it. All right. So let's move on. Coming to the second segment of what I did during my fellowship days. Yes. So, like I said, we I had many options available in front of me. Right, there were like I said, I could have gone into policy making, I could have gone into consulting, curriculum development, teacher training. There were so many diverse options. I could have gone back into the corporate sector. So, how did I decide that this is exactly where I want to stay? Um, so I had taken up an internship right after the first year of my fellowship to actually eliminate, because the thing with me was I didn't really know how to put my finger to something and say, yes, this is exactly what I want to do. So I decided I would start doing things and eliminate my options. Right. So I worked with an NGO right here in Mangalore right after my first year of fellowship, Youth for Jobs. What we did is we worked with the youth, with differently abled youth, and provided them with we trained them and then provided them with employment opportunities. So I was involved in designing the training model, training the youth, and as well as reaching out to different organizations to find out if they have employment opportunities open for different people, right? So that is how I tried to upskill over there. And when I started with the second year of my fellowship, I was involved, like Nan said, with two projects. One being Camp Diaries. Camp Diaries, essentially what we did was we held weekend camps in different government schools. Like Nan said, a lot of our students don't have the luxury to attend summer camps, right, because of the exorbitant fees they have to shell out. So we sent out invites to working professionals. A lot of professionals who want to do something worthwhile over the weekends. So we sent out invites. We sent out invites to colleges as well, college students, and we said we will give them a certificate. Who wouldn't come for a certificate, right? So So we got all these people to work with us. We had activities like beatboxing, guitar, games, science through science experiments, computer upskilling. So we had all of these programs, which finally culminated in the showcase. So what happens is what really melts our hearts is when we see parents have a smile on their faces, right? When we see a daily wage laborer actually seeing his child using a computer, knowing how to navigate through. Or when we see a housemaid, actually a domestic help, come and see that her son or his or her son or daughter can strum a string or two on the guitar, right? So we did that, and after which this essentially was the highlight of my 2-year fellowship program. Like ma'am said, I am an ardent theater lover. I just love being on stage. I love training children, working with children on drama. So I decided to go ahead and lead the city team of Bangalore um, for Dramibas in the year 2018. And what I did was, Dramibas essentially is a theater and education program. So we try to use theater as a tool to foster skills like growth mindset, communication, collaboration, confidence in the minds of our children. And we also try to encourage fellows to start using drama, to start using theater as a module in their classrooms. So, what were some of the skills I learned there? um, right from delegating tasks to, because I am someone who generally is not very good with with confrontation, with managing adults, a team of adults. But this time, because I had taken on this challenge, I went. I went and made that conscious choice to work on that area of development. I had to delegate work to the people I was working with. I had to reach out to theatre groups across Bangalore to come and work with our children. I had to work with teachers, design, we had to design lesson plans as well, drama lesson plans, which the teachers would try to work with their students on. And then finally, one thing that hands down was the toughest thing I did was fundraising, right? Fundraising and connecting with sponsors, because we had to raise nearly 5 lakhs in order to have our mega showcase at Rama Institute of Technology in the year 2018. So that was something very difficult, and right from the get-go, right after I did that, I realized anything to do with fundraising is not a career option that I'm looking for. So finally, this program culminated in a mega showcase where children from 30 different schools, 500 students across 30 different schools, came together and put up their learnings, showcase their learnings through different theater plays. So these were some of the skills I learned while working at Dramibus. Um, but in all of this, what was my key takeaway was that I loved working on ground. I loved working with children, right? And that is where I felt I best fit, because just walking into the classroom and just being myself, being my theatrical self, being extremely animated was something I loved doing. And I found it a little difficult to really connect with the adult crowd. When I say adult crowd, I would essentially mean um, it was very difficult for me to really push myself and get things done. So I chose to stay back in the ed sector as a teacher, right? So here is the next question that I have for you. How do I explore my options? How do I seek out and explore my options? Now you have multiple options in front of you. How do I know that this is my skill set, these are my interests, and this is my dream JD? And I want my skills and my interests to map right into my dream JD, right? Or these are the skills my dream JD needs. How do I work towards upskilling myself? Please participate in projects and seminars, internships, volunteer at NGOs, organize inter and intra-collegiate fests, and participate in fests, right? So that way, for example, if I could just give you an example, if you are a person who loves the tech side of things, very sound technical knowledge, but you do not really like interacting with people, your dream JD requires you to do it. Start coming out of your comfort zone. Start pushing yourself, right? Start interacting with maybe people in your classroom. Start giving seminars, like I said, in your classroom. Start interacting with your lecturers. So this will the reason I'm saying this is because what happens is, a lot of times we feel we do have certain skills, but our areas of development really hold us back. For example, some of us feel we don't really we're not really fluent with our spoken English skills, right? And so that is what is holding us back. Start working on that, right? um, Moving on, let us take this poll. So can we have the second poll question, please? All right. Do my skills and interests align with the career path I wish to pursue? So, am I aware that the skills and the interests that I have exactly map onto the dream JD that I'm looking at? Yes, they do. B, no, not yet, but I'm working towards upskilling myself. And C, no, I'm just winging it. No, I'm just winging it would mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm just, I'm just going where the tide takes me, basically. All right, great. So many of you are working towards building those skills and working on the upskilling yourself, so that is really really nice to know. um, a few of you said you're just winging it, all right, which is still okay. And well, then if you said that you do know for sure that you have the skills and interests that map onto your dream JD. All right, great. So for those of you who say that you're just winging it, again, I would really, really encourage you, because trust me, at one point in my college life, I was there too, just following the herd, right? But just be very, very conscious when you're making this choice, because your career is something that you will spend the next 30 to 40 years of your life doing. So unless you'd it should want you to just wake up every morning and actually go for work, not just do it because it is one of the many to dos you have to do in the day, right? So let us move on to the last segment of today's talk. Why should I know my strengths and my areas of development? Now, this is something that I would really want to stress on, especially for those of you who are who are looking to transition out of the industry that you're currently in, that is out of the technical sector. Because you will have a lot of people come, well-meaning people, come up to you and tell you that, are you sure about this? Because people came up to me and said, it is a downscaling salary. I do understand, right? It was a downscale in salary from where I was, my technical job, to starting out as a teacher. But that was a genuine question. I took it into account and I tried to downsize life temporarily. But besides that, a lot of people also came up and said, how will you do something like this? What if the guy you're supposed to get married to doesn't like what you're doing? Or how will you stay in a government school setup where the community is extremely violent? Or how will you stay in a government school environment with dingy toilets, with classrooms that have no fans? So unless I was 100% sure that this is what I really wanted, I could have easily gotten swayed, because there were times when I reconsidered my decision, when I actually had second thoughts, and I was very, very worried that I'm making wrong choices. But because I sat down and I consciously decided, okay, these are things I love doing. I love being on ground. I love keeping the art side of me, performing art side of my life very closely connected with me. These are the areas I need to work on. Because I was very, very sure about it, I was able to stand my ground. So for those of you who are going to make very, very daring decisions, if I must put it that way, please be sure you're aware, and you're aware of your strengths, your areas of development, and you're making informed choices. All right. Finally, moving on to this, I don't know if this bit was covered during your training session, but I will quickly just very briefly walk you through this. What is the SWOT analysis essentially? It talks about your strengths. What are some of your very, very strong points? What are some of your weaknesses or areas that you need to work on? And what are some of the opportunities that you can leverage, right? Opportunities you can leverage to work on your areas of development. For example, um, let us say I'm not very maybe your tech, just programming languages and coding is your strong point. So if that is your strong suit, try to amplify it by participating in more hackathons. If your weakness is again public speaking, try to try to work on it by seeking out opportunities where you can work with different teams, where you can probably host small events just in or small seminars right inside your classroom. And what are certain threats? Now, threats are essentially external factors that you have no control over, right? For example, if I'm talking from a very teacher from a very teacher point of view, if a person wants to become a teacher but is constantly prone to sore throats, he or she will find it very difficult to become a teacher, right? Or one of you has set your eyes on your dream company, which is in an environment that is um, in a very cold environment, right? Very cold climatic conditions, and you have a skin issue, so you cannot really and that is sort of a hindrance for you from actually going ahead and applying at that organization. So these are essentially external factors that you have no control over. So I would really encourage you to very consciously at every point in your life when you're essentially making a major decision, understand what your strengths are, what your areas of development or your weaknesses are, how to leverage various opportunities to work on these, and what are certain threats that are factors that you have no control over. All right, with that, let's quickly move on to the third poll question. I'm actively leveraging my strengths and working on my areas of development. Yes. Or B, I'm still figuring out my strengths and AODs. AODs stand for areas of development. Okay. So many of you have said I am still figuring out how to work on my AODs and leverage my strengths. No problem. Like I said, as long as you are aware that these are certain areas that you need to work on, that is enough to give you a start, right? Um, with that, I have come to the end of what I had to share with you, a little something about what I do now. So these are my lovely bunch of seventh graders that I work with. Right after my Teach for India fellowship, I joined another government school because, like I said, I decided to stay back in the ed sector as a teacher. And so most of the children that I work with are a migrant crowd. So we sometimes have dropouts because parents are constantly on the move. So we have children who are here today, gone tomorrow. So this particular bunch of students, we have a huge age gap. So in the same class, we have children as young as 13 years to children as old as 17 to 18 years. Some of the boys you can see there, they're actually 17, 18-year-olds. And they're all in this was taken last year when they were in grade 6, so you know how far behind they are from where they should actually be. For many of them this is their first time in a classroom setting. Many of them have never been to school before. They were directly put into a formal classroom setting starting 6th grade. For many of them, English is a very new language, so we have to be multilingual in class. That was another thing I picked up. Kannada, I was not fluent in Kannada at all. Today I have picked a great deal of Kannada, all thanks to my students. So we have to be multilingual in class. I have to sandwich most of my concepts with a little bit of Hindi and Kannada as well while I explain. Parental investment is something that is lacking. We do not have a lot of parents who actually are invested in where their children are, headed, in what direction they are headed in life, because for them it is just hand to mouth existence, right? So even when we call them and ask them about their child's about their child's learning at home, many of them say, miss gottilla miss, nimge gottirbeku, you should know. If they don't listen to you, just beat them, hodi miss, right? So they just, for them it's just like, beat them, and then they will come back, they will toe the line. So that's an issue where we have many of our students who at a very young age given to drugs, given to, we have children just cutting their hands and things like that, which is extremely alarming. We have really, really bad role models in the communities, a lot of problems. But that being said, this diverse composition of my class is what makes it very, very special. I love them, and they are these kids, these munchkins are the reason why I wake up every morning and look forward to going back to school. And besides that, even the team that I work with, we have a very, very supportive team of teachers, because we all know that the struggles are real. For each one of us, the struggle is real, and so it's very, very supportive in a way that there is no concept of senior junior. Even though my colleague and I, we are senior teachers in among our group, even a junior teacher can walk into my class, sit for an observation, and give me feedback, and I have to be open to taking it, right? So some of the skills that I learned through this 1 year would be school administration, digital literacy for our teachers, because many of our teachers, government school teachers essentially, have zero knowledge about the computer. But a lot of things are being recorded online these days, because of which we had a couple of sessions, right from scratch, how to switch on the computer, how to, what does start to, what are the icons on your desktop, everything, how to log in, how to create a Gmail account, and all of that is something that we taught them. Teacher training, curriculum development are certain things that I'm working towards. So that's all from me, really. Like I said, we do have it is a day. I mean, it is a job that I look forward to doing every day. But we also have really sad days. Just the other day, about 2 months ago, I had a student of mine, one of my old students. She called me up and she said, "Miss, I'm married." And it was heartbreaking, right? Because she was an amazing football player. And just to know that, I know, I mean, I was there when she came to me and told me that my parents are putting me out of school. I went to her house and I tried talking to the parents, but the father had come home drunk, and it was a very scary situation. He kind of started yelling at me, and he said, "Do you think you know better than me?" But I mean, it was they had challenges themselves, because the community they were staying in was not very safe. Right outside, there were a lot of boys who, who just loiter around, catcall, eve tease. In fact, when I go into communities, I take some of my boys with me. They started asking my boys about who I was, about, like, what was I doing there. So I did understand the parents' struggles, but just about 2 months ago, I got a call, and the parents told me that, I mean, the girl told me that she's married, just a 14, 15-year-old. Nothing much we could really do. We couldn't report it because, I'm sitting here, and from the comfort of my house, I can report it, but you never really know what's happening to her over there. So these are some of the things that we face on, I'd say on a regular basis. But yeah, I love my job, and I look forward to doing it every day. So that's all from me. Yeah, I think the forum is open to questions now. If you have questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Roshni. That was excellent. I mean, honestly, I'm getting goosebumps, to be very realistic. We live in a society which is so sophisticated. I could just put some information where, number of participants today are like 50 or 100, nobody realizes the value of, such information that gets shared, because unless you face it, unless you really get across it, you will never know what happens. So choosing a profession like this is not easy. It needs lot of guts, it needs lot of passion, it needs lot of big heart to really sacrifice and work for the community, ensuring to teach these kids who also deserve something similar to all the other kids that we have. So, I would personally say, knowing you, I feel so proud, connected, that I, at this age, can learn something from you that I did not do. And there's always a learning from the student. So, as you say, you feel cherished working with students. I too say I feel cherished working with you guys, because every time I get to learn something new, and you have shown a new
Absolutely.
roadmap today. It's so brilliant to hear and so proud of you. Participants, you can put your questions in the chat box. We will take it up from
Uh,
there.
Yeah, just one quick thing which I may have missed. For those of you, if I can just come in here, Sangeeta ma'am.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
for those of for those of you who are looking to build a career in the social service sector, there is a misconception that it doesn't pay well. To be honest, yes, initially, obviously, you have to start small, but if you navigate the right channels, and for those of you I know who are looking at who are factoring in the angle of money as well, the social service sector, if you know how to connect to the right channels, it will pay you well, right? um, and honestly, if those of you who would want to see what a classroom like this looks like, what a 9 to 3 job looks like, or 9 to 5 job looks like, please, if you're in Bangalore next year, if this pandemic comes to a stop and we can go back to our normal lives, if you're in Bangalore next year, I'm there until the next academic year, that is until March 2021. Please feel free to contact me and tell me, ma'am, I want to, or Roshni, I want to just drop in. You're more than welcome. My students will welcome you with arms wide open. So please come by. Yeah.
That's nice. So I will definitely try to, Roshni. Once I'm in
Yes.
Bangalore, I would want to connect and see, of course, what is it that we all can also contribute in a smaller way, at least. All right, a
Yes,
quick
please
question. I
come.
think you've already answered this in your presentation, but there's a question what says, was there a language barrier while communicating with your students or their parents? I think you answered it, but if you want to share something more on it.
Yes, so initially there was. I was quite fluent in English and Hindi, but I had to, because it was a government school in Bangalore, I had to work on Kannada as well. So initially there was, so what we generally do is, for those people, especially those who come from, from countries outside India, or who come from states outside Karnataka, what they do is they use their students and they ask the students to translate it to the parent, especially while we interact with the parents. But with the students, I'd say, like, in about 3 to 4 months, you start building that rapport. The student starts understanding your language, and you start understanding the student's language. You sort of find the middle ground. And we as teachers, we're generally encouraged to slowly let go of any other language besides English. So just for the initial few days, we hold on to Kannada and Hindi. But then there are again students who really, really struggle. Like, I have 3 students in my class, 6th, 7th standard, who are still working on bag, cat, basic CBC words. There's nothing much you can do. So for them, you really need to resort to using Hindi and Kannada. Basics are more than enough, is what I'd say. Yeah.
All right. There is a quick appreciation for you on the screen which says, really bold of you to choose this profession, a real role model for each one of us. Um,
Thank
uh,
you so much.
yeah,
Thank you
so
so
this is
much.
the same question from Noam Rosario again, saying, how are the classes
Yeah.
going during this pandemic session? Just curious to know about.
Sure. So thanks for that question, Noam. So I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I got your name right. We are trying to procure tabs, but it's very, very difficult. The network issues in a lot of their communities. Also, if we give tabs to them, there is always this fear, because it's something new. Chances of Because, like, what happens is, a lot of the people in the community and the parents of the students as well, they sell things, even if we give them a new uniform material, they sell it out to maybe get a little extra money to buy themselves a drink for the night. So there are all of these fears. But for now, what I do is I just get 5 students on a con call, do my class, and for about an hour, and then get the next 5 students on the con call. So all the 30, I take about 4 classes a day, and then it is very, very tedious, to be honest. Lot of call drops. We take about 15 to 20 minutes just connecting the students. But then trust me, they're very passionate. They just look forward to it. So yeah, that's more than enough. That's what just keeps driving you to do what you want to do. But for now, it's just con calls, normal voice con calls.
Okay. The next one is, what is the most important thing that you have learned after entering into the field of teaching?
The most important thing, I'd really say maybe the students, especially this sector that I work with, they keep me grounded. Like because if I ever have a day when I'm complaining about something, I just think about the communities they come from, and but to be honest, these children, interestingly, don't have TVs in their houses. Many of them don't have smartphones, but there's just so much joy. I'm still as a theater enthusiast as well. I'm just trying to understand what is it, like what is it about that human connection that just keeps them so connected all the time, even though they don't have these gadgets to keep them entertained. But one thing that I really learned, I'd say, as a teacher is don't walk into your classroom thinking you are going to teach something to someone, but make it a learning environment for you as well, right? Because if I can feel that energy is palpable. As soon as I go in and I say, I'm going to teach you today, students zone out. What is it that we can learn together, right? Because I think that is essentially where we as teachers need to come from. What is it that we can learn together? Please tell me if I'm wrong, right? Please tell me if I'm wrong. If I don't know something, I will tell you I don't know. I will look it up on Google tomorrow. I will get back. But be vulnerable with your students, right? That is the reason why I love going back to my classroom, is because all of us can just be ourselves and not have any qualms about it. Yeah.
Where is the school located in Bangalore?
So the name of my school is Government High Primary School Ramgonnahalli in Whitefield. It's in Whitefield. So I don't exactly know what location. You just look up Government High Primary School Ramgonnahalli, Bangalore. All right. But if you're in Bangalore, I do have a lot of my other Teach for India folks. I can just write to them and I can tell them that you're interested in maybe dropping by to their classrooms. Yeah, so you can drop by to any classroom that is closest to where you are residing.
All right. Any more questions, guys? Roshni, I think you have given us, a feel of, even how to teach. So, not that just because we are teachers or we are seniors. As I always say, we always also learn a lot from students, and this is one more mode of learning that really we can look at. Could you please also tell us how to get into internships? Like, is there any entrance exam? Internships meaning, yeah, go ahead,
So
Roshni.
okay, if you're talking about wanting to volunteer over the summer break to just, yeah, so that just brings me back to what I wanted to also talk about. I may have missed. How much time do I have? I'll try to keep it brief. So there are a lot of people who joined the fellowship with me, left their high paying jobs, like, they were making around 14 to 18 LPA, and then they just didn't feel like they fit in, right? So many of them complained, is this what I left my job for, right? So please, I would encourage you, before, maybe I just got lucky. And there's something else that I didn't really talk about before I started with Teach for India. I volunteered at an NGO, Sangama, for about 2 months to actually figure out if teaching is my forte, if that is something that drives me. So if you are planning on making a huge transition, start volunteering over the weekends. Start looking out, I think Prasad asked for internships. Prasad, I think there are even NGOs in Mangalore, like I said, the one that I interned at, Youth for Jobs. they would, I think a lot of them would be more than willing to just to have you on board and see what skills you can contribute. There is no entrance exam as such. You just need to connect with those people. Just reach out. If you want, maybe you can just leave me a message on LinkedIn as well, and I will see how I can best help you. There is no entrance exam for any internship that I know of at NGOs. Yeah. Hello.
Yes. Any more questions, guys? I think we are pretty much on dot end of the program. We could manage it perfectly in time. Thank you, Roshni, for that fantastic presentation. I was just looking at your presentation as well. Guys, these are some things for us also to take away when we look at webinars. I was looking at how is it that I can improve my presentation, the way you put your slides, the way you have put your pictures, the way, I mean, I'm talking perspective and alumni, how from a college being transitioned into corporate or into a real world of work brings in so many of changes, which looks so professional. And, these are few things that we also want to imbibe on. I think many of them have got a great insight on, what the Teach for India looks like, how it is going to be working with government schools, and how privileged we are probably to have all this on tabs, right? When you say there are tabs already existing, there are computers already existing, but not being used. So, the facilities are there, but not being used. Today with us also, we have a lot of these facilities. We have a lot of these opportunities to listen to great people, listen to a lot of experiences for that matter, and then, see if we can really imply a few things out of that. But we are privileged enough, and I think we should make use of those things that are available to us. Thank you one more time, Roshni, for sparing your time and coming over and sharing your experience. I would also like to thank Vinutan sir from the alumni department and Rajesh sir for helping us host these events. Roshni, just for your information, in this list of participants, there are a lot of faculties. I think they must have taught you at least in the first year, second year, and they
Yes, I just saw.
what is it that our
I just
student
saw.
has been up to. So I'm very
So sweet.
glad. Thank you, people, for joining in, and so
I
that's
just saw a
great.
message. Yeah, I just saw a message from Anil sir. Thank you so much, sir. I think it was all the motivation that that you guys also drove us with. That it truly just pushed me to doing what I'm doing today. And to all the students as well, Prasad and the other students who are interested in probably reaching out to me.
Roshni
Feel
Prasad
free.
also, I think, is Prasad sir from electronics department, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, but we're
Yeah.
open to. I'm open
I
to
thought you
connecting
will
with
see
teachers
only a
as well.
name.
I'm
Yeah, I think it's
so
Prasad sir
sorry.
from
Okay.
electronics department. So yeah,
Hi, sir.
yeah,
Hello,
yeah.
sir. Yeah, sure. You can please feel free to leave a message on LinkedIn. I will. I do have a couple of people that I know, maybe here and in Bangalore as well. If you wish to do an internship or just volunteer at an NGO, great. I think I can put you in touch with them. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys, for
Great.
your patient listening.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All the
Always
best.
a pleasure to connect with you. Thank you so much for sparing your time. Thank you, everybody,
Thank you.
for being there.
Bye bye.
Thanks.